Fusi trying to knife his way through. Slater has just been smashed by Soliola. Absolutely hemming in the back area. Massive shot. Melbourne players all go to check on Soliola and say that's not called for. I don't like the way Billy was dealt with. He hasn't moved. Now after he gets rid of the pass, in comes Soliola late and high. Wow. That's bad. That is ugly. Will Sia Soliola be able to play out this game? I'll be assessing that with the help of the bunker. Watch this. Oh.
Hello, my name is Damien Cook and this is what happens on the field stays on the field for professional integrity. A bit of content, just topic overview of the question, sport and Australian law, for and against the court settlement, case of serious injury. I have a video there for an example. I also got the NRL protocols that are in place at the moment for an example. A couple of ethical issues, an interesting video on mutual agreement, and then finish up with some personal experience. So like I said, topic overview, my question was, should any acts of aggression that cause injury during sport or physical activity be dealt with in the industry or profession or in courts? For example, with the Sia Soliola tackle you just watched, Sia Soliola got 8 weeks suspension for this, and Billy Slater had memory loss for up to a week and actually missed about 3 to 4 games in total. If you can compare this to something in the general public, the act he did was illegal within the game, tackling someone off the ball in connection with the head, and if this was in everyday life, this would probably be seen as a king hit, with some people being obviously jailed over that incident. So where does this stand within the Australian law system? Montier said there's no interest in the rules of sporting codes unless they are breaking the law. So they also respect the right of sporting organisations to organise their own affairs and have the right system in place. One that I agree with, Fafinski, is it's seen as voluntary. Obviously you do volunteer to take the field and you're it is a contact sport. But obviously Van Vliet, sorry, I hope that's the right way to say it, so there's law enforcement a lot more common within your park sports and your weekend sports, that organisations probably don't have the right systems or in place, and that's where the law enforcement do step in. Against court settlement, these are major sports just from around the world, mainly from America and here, Australia. So the NBA and the NRL, Montier said that they both agree these sports on a what happens on the field stays on the field sort of mentality, with players within the playing arena will be dealt with by the sport themselves. The arena obviously counts as soon as they step inside the door of a stadium or court or a field. That's when they're under the security and the rules of the NRL or in the NBA as well. So whatever happens within those areas is dealt by them. Just this picture, obviously 2 teams praying after a game. It's just something that you see a lot. It's just they've obviously just been into a bit of battle, an aggressive contact sport, but they see it as a mutual agreement that they will, they pray together after the game. It's just a nice touch that, a lot of people within sport do agree that what happens on the field stays on the field. For settlement in court, these major sports from around the world, so we have Major League Baseball, and Hockey League, Football League, the AFL here, and then football or soccer, whichever one you want to call it. With AFL here, as far as we know, the last case, or any case that I could find, was in 1985 with the AFL, where Lee Matthews broke the jaw of a Geelong player. He missed 7 weeks, but the law enforcement seen as a way, they stepped in and actually seen as an act of violence that is bodily harm, and he was charged. He pled guilty and he was charged with bodily harm and fined $1,000 as well. Here's just an example of a tackle, Jordan McLean against Alex McKinnon. Obviously, Alex, he's a paraplegic now. First diagnosis was a quadriplegic, and he's obviously made some good progress, but these are some of the serious injuries that can happen very easily within the sport of rugby league. So as you can see how easy it is for an incident like that to happen. Obviously McKinnon's going through an ongoing battle at the moment as well with the NRL, obviously, which I'll get to a bit later on my personal opinion on it, but his ongoing battle, there was rumours that he was going to try and sue the NRL, but it's a serious case of, he wants to make sure he can, compensation for what's happened, but obviously the NRL protocols, and that's what they've got to stick to as well. So with that in mind, for an example, the NRL protocols, obviously the protection of the game, they want to protect their brand. If they were to put this into court, obviously it'll stretch out a lot longer, and it wouldn't be done within a week. And obviously, the longer these negative things are in the media, it brings, it puts a bad name on the brand of NRL. So they want these protocols in place, and they do want the right ones to make sure that the players are safe, but obviously also to protect the brand as well. Protection of the player, we have the Rugby League Players Association. Obviously, they talk on our behalf and negotiate the contracts, and making sure that the right policies are in place if there is any serious injury, that we're well looked after. And obviously, before anyone even steps on the field, everyone has to have full insurance to train or play rugby league. Within the actual game, obviously the referees will penalise and report an incident that they see needs to go to the judiciary. It works on a point system, so 100 points means 1 week. So for example, 260 points would mean you miss 2 weeks, but then you got 60 points left over, carryover points. So next time you only need a small thing to happen, you're probably going to miss another week as well. It's graded on 1 to 3, and obviously 3 being the worst, and then there's a fine now for certain miscellaneous things that happen in the game. Obviously there was a few accidental trippings last year and careless high tackles that people were missing representative games or important finals games, and they seen this as a better way to hold someone accountable for those smaller incidents. Ethical theories, obviously I'll go through egoism first, individual focus, professional integrity. See, I've got individual and the game there as well. Obviously the individual with Alex McKinnon, obviously, for example, he is just trying to get the best outcome for himself, and what's best for him, and that's what the players are doing too. Just ensure our safety, that when we do go on the field, that we are looked after if anything goes wrong. But obviously the professional integrity of the game, like I said before, they don't want it to go to court. They want it fixed straight away. Within the NRL and many sports in Australia, the judiciary sort of gets an issue done before the next round. So they know the verdict before the next round is done. It's out of the media, and the negatives quickly pushed aside. So it is a bit of a NRL versus the RLPA, the players, but they do both have themselves at best interest at heart as well. But I do mention utilitarianism that everyone does as well for the game, and obviously your own reputation. You go and, if this is settled in court, you probably don't want your issue to be settled in court, because within the game you might get a bad reputation, but if it's settled in court you might have an actual criminal record for the rest of your life. General welfare of utilitarianism, there's obviously rules and laws to protect the players within the game. Like I mentioned before, neither the player or the NRL, the brand, want to go to, or any sport really want to go to court. Gives a poor image for the game. Mutual agreement, there's an example just coming up next of two players that just had a mutual agreement on the field, and that happens a lot within the sport. Kantianism, which is duty to reason, but I don't see it as universal, because not everyone's equal, no issue is equal. Things that are happening on the field would not be allowed off the field in the general public. But in the same way, as long as it's dealt with robustly and appropriately, which was what Dave Goodell said, he just made sure the right decision was made on the circumstances. The example I spoke about before, the AFL, that's when a time where the law enforcement seems like the right time to step in and take action. But obviously since then a lot of the sports probably got better protocols in place to protect the players in the game. And obviously gamesmanship, it's just doing the right thing. You follow the rules of the game, you respect the game, and not actually taking in any foul play. But those things do happen within the game, but there needs to be respect for it as well. Here's an example of just some mutual agreement between two players, just having a go at each other during a game, and you'll see the end result.
That's a filthy look. That is a dirty stare.
I think he may have challenged him. Front of me.
Yeah. Here we go. There's the line. Oh, what about a tackle? Tarek Sims. Tarek O'Connor. Here he comes. Get that in here. Knock back, says the referee. Conrad Harrell picks it up. Everyone came to a standstill. Harrell's lost it again.
And guess who got him? Guess who got him? Tarek Sims goes across, punching chest to the crowd. So I think we'll declare that game set and match.
Just on personal experience, obviously respect the rules of the game, but I do understand that it's seen as voluntary. As Fafinski mentioned earlier, it is voluntary to go onto the field and take part in a contact sport, so I do agree with him there. But obviously there is ways to find an advantage within the games, tactics if you will, to get an edge on the other team. And dealt with by the sport, I do agree that it needs to be dealt with in the game. I just think that improvement needs to be in the policies and the protocols. So whether that's the government stepping in to make sure and oversee all sports, all their sporting protocols within Australia, and just making sure they're the best possible outcome and best things are in place to protect the player and the game moving forward. I think that's just somewhere they can improve. Thank you.